Let's do it live. All right, I'm pleased to welcome in the man himself, Mr. Bill O'Reilly. How are you, sir?
You know, I'm the same, Sean, which is tragic for everybody. You know, there's no improvement.
I want to get to the book. First of all, congratulations. I'm in awe when I keep seeing this is the 13th in the Killing series. And I'm like, I don't know that I could have read 13 books. You've written 13 in just this series. But before I get to the book, I just got to ask you, you've seen a lot, you've covered a lot. What do you make about how this administration is handling its response to what's going on in Israel?
On the surface, it's fine. They're saying the right things. But I don't sense that there is a commitment to right the wrong.
What does that mean?
So they're not emotionally involved, but I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So Joe Biden is not a man who responds with urgency. You see the southern border. I mean, that's been going on now for almost 3 years. I mean, he just doesn't do anything. Where he could tomorrow write an executive order, simple, saying the United States is not going to process any more asylum claims for a year so we can get this under control. How hard is that? And then public disorder, nothing. And then Justice Department, most Americans feel it's corrupt. Nothing from Biden on it because it protects Biden. So I don't feel that Biden is emotionally engaged in the Hamas story. Again, I could be wrong. I could be too harsh. But he says the things that are written for him to say. But in his heart, is he a warrior? I don't think so.
It's interesting. Why do you think, you mentioned the southern border, I have my theory. I believe that this is all about future Democratic voters. I'm sorry, maybe that's too cynical, but I believe that if you really cared about American security and trafficking, you could stop a good chunk of this at the border. They don't want to. Why do you think?
That's true.
Okay, so do you agree with that as the reason?
Yes. The progressive left wants to have a country that is not dominated by white men. So they see the United States as a corrupt nation, a patriarchy, a racist country. I just got back from England. I was over there visiting my son who's studying at Oxford. 40% of the London population is foreign born. When I was studying there 50 years ago at the University of London, it was an English town, a British town. No longer. The whole culture has changed in Great Britain. That's what the Brexit thing was all about. In the United States, that's what the progressive left wants. Flood the zone with foreign nationals, and then power will shift to a more inclusive society, which means people of color running the show. That's really what this is all about. Now, Biden is the most progressive president in the history of this country by far. Okay? He makes Barack Obama look like Barry Goldwater. He does 100% what the progressives want. Now, the unintended consequences of allowing 8 million people into the United States unattended is you have an unbelievable drug problem. Not to say that the migrants are the source of that, but it's much, much easier to smuggle heroin and fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine into the country when your border patrol is under siege every single day.
Yep.
I mean, a 5-year-old would know that. So you get this massive narcotics problem that's causing social disorder in the major cities. Does Biden care about that? Not at all. So if you got a president who's disengaged from the horrors that we are seeing on this planet.
I think it was amazing to hear you say that. Because I've made the case for a while. Joe Biden said when he was running for president, I want to be the most progressive president ever. And you just, said exactly that, which is he gets it. To him, he will never be able to say, I'm the guy that had what would normally have been an accomplishment. I lowered the deficit. I created more jobs. I kept America safe. He came into office saying, I will be the North Star of progressives forever because I appointed the first black woman of color as vice president, the first guy to run a department that was LGBTQIAC3PO, whatever it is today. I have the first 4-star leading a department that is transgender. To him, the marker of success wasn't what we normally would use as the benchmark of success. It's now I want to appoint people and do things, allow more migrants into the country illegally, to do things that the progressive left will look at me. You know, it's not the Great New Deal anymore. This is about for future generations. Look to Joe Biden as the guy that was the most progressive.
That's true. And you add in climate change and a massive spending.
Forgot about
on that. Okay. Then you have a guy who's just basically running the country on an ideological basis. Forget about problem solving. He's not interested in that. And that's why you don't hear the Biden administration say, you know, this Iran, they're behind this stuff.
Yeah.
Don't hear it. Okay. Because they don't want to solve that problem. Let Netanyahu take care of that. We don't want to do that. So, look, if Americans don't get it by now, and I think they do, Sean. I mean, Biden's job performance is in the 30s now, and it's getting lower every single week. People know he's incompetent. People know that he's not looking out for the folks, that he's an ideological prisoner to the Progressive Party, and they know that he doesn't really care. And that's the bottom line. The man does not care. Can I make a historical reference? Do we have time for that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, you know, I'm a historian.
Yes.
And the Killing series has sold more nonfiction books than any other history series in the world.
19 million, if I'm correct.
Yeah. We have 19 million in print. And Killing the Witches will debut number 2, beyond a hate Trump book, unfortunately, on Sunday on the New York Times list. It's the worst president in American history was James Buchanan, the guy before Abraham Lincoln, who for 4 years sat on his butt and watched the South terrorize Union and Northern interests like post offices, like depots. They broke in and stole weapons. They beat up Union people who were working, federal workers. Buchanan did jack. Nothing, okay? Because he didn't care. He didn't care to keep the Union together. He got out of there, Lincoln came in, and bang, you got the Civil War. You can drop that on Buchanan. He'll always be the worst president of all time. Biden is second because he shares that apathy with Buchanan.
So let me just I'm sorry, we went down a rabbit hole. I got to ask you another historical question because you've been at all of these networks and you have a perspective that very few have. It was amazing to me post-Ukraine, the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. Everyone on the left posted a Ukraine flag in their Instagram and their social media feeds. When Black Lives Matter happened, they all had a black square to join this movement. When this terrorist attack occurred on Israel and innocent women and children were taken hostage, killed, and beheaded, the left, students at Harvard, members of Congress, sided with a terrorist organization that our own government, that the Biden administration has codified and said that this is a terrorist organization. And there's no outrage. There's no concern. Those same folks in the media who talked about whataboutism, both sideism, have been silent calling out the left. President Biden, when he addressed the country, didn't talk about Iran, didn't call out his own party, and yet he was hailed as the strongest advocate of Israel ever. Why is the media so silent on this? Not in a way that they weren't with.
Well, number one, I disagree with you a little bit.
Okay.
It's the far left, not the left. You can be a liberal person, and I know a lot of them, and be appalled at Hamas and support Israel. But the far left, the progressive movement, has always demonized Israel as a fascist state that persecutes Palestinians in an apartheid way. Always. It's in the playbook, and they're not going to get out of the playbook. And these idiots at Harvard and other universities, Columbia, Georgetown, whatever it may be, they buy into the progressive playbook. They're not going to get out of it. So they're going to blame Israel for everything. Now, Biden isn't that bad, but he's not going to go up against the George Soroses of the world who fund his machine. So he'll stay back and not issue condemnations against Black Lives Matter, which had a horrendous depiction of a hang gliding terrorist who killed hundreds of innocent concert goers. All right. Black Lives Matter out of Chicago put out this rendition and said, right on, this is good. We're with them. Oh, justifying murder. You'll never hear Biden criticize that. Ever in a million years will he do that. And this is what's frightening about the Biden administration. There is no sense of justice, no sense of American right and wrong. There's just no sense of it at all.
No.
And Americans got to throw these people out in November 24.
Yeah, I agree.